Come on, Socks. Can I lift you up? Here he is. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my show. Here's Socks. I've disturbed his sleep. He's taken my chair while I've been having lunch downstairs, and now I've picked him up. He's disoriented, aren't you? Look. There's the camera. Oh, he's not bothered. I hope everyone's well. It's gone really sunny again here, and it's Wednesday, and I'm 4,000 words into a new story this week. This week is marked by my writing this new project that I can't talk about yet. Essentially, it's a story for audio that has to be 10,000 words. So I'm about a third of the way through my first draft, and there's quite a lot going on. It's quite a busy story with a lot of backstory for everybody. So it's quite a jigsaw puzzle, putting the whole thing together. Anyway, it's nice to have some words done. And I've delivered another story for somebody's anthology. I'm waiting to hear what they make of that. It's quite a leap in the dark and quite a kind of trusting thing to do, to send your story off at last. And you have to be quite sure that it's as good as it can be at that moment. So you end up kind of reading and rereading and drafting and fiddling, but then trying not to fiddle with it too much. What else is going on? I was taking stock of what I'd written this year, because we're almost at halfway point in the year, and it is quite a lot of stuff, really. So I'm not feeling as bad about about not doing enough as I could be. It's always a tricky thing. What's nice is that some of these things are for definite commissions, so they've gone to people and they are with them, and so they feel real. It's the stuff that's on spec that feels less real, because then you have to finish it, then you have to take it out into the world and try and sell it. Can't believe after 35 years of this, I'm still doing this. I'm in kind of a more precarious position than ever with publishing, I think. I've watched a number of avenues kind of close down in recent months, not least things like my Elsie Mason books with Orion, and them just stopping that series after 6 books just as it gets an audience. So wasteful to spend that time and that energy. And of course, big publishers are just on to the next person, on to the next thing. And they really don't try very hard not to seem completely uncaring about this kind of thing. But at least I got the 6 books out, and I'm grateful for that. I finished that saga to an extent, although it was a world that I do feel like I want to write more about, the streets by the docks in South Shields. But I always feel that about the different series I've written over the years. They're never quite finished. Anyway, what I'm reading just now, I'm loving this, our book club book, Remarkably Bright Creatures. In some ways, it's something that I'd avoid in a way, because it's been so hyped and so everywhere. It's one of those things where I either go for it and buy the hyped book and then feel very disappointed, or buy the hyped book and love it and see there's a reason for things being as popular as they are, or I just avoid it strenuously. And I fall into all of those categories at different times. With this, it's a book club book, so I had to read it, and I love it. I'm nearly halfway through, and all the characters and what they're getting up to is really, all of them are really interesting to me. And they're quite low-key things. You know, if you pitched this and said, well, there's a bloke who's looking for his father, and he's down on his luck, and he's a bit useless, and he buys a camper van and moves to near Seattle to start hunting around for this father, and he's got some jewellery left by his drug addict mother, and he's lost it, or the airline's lost it for him with his bag. This is all low-key stuff. And the woman who cleans the aquarium is the other character, and she's lost a key, and she's lost her son years ago, and she's thinking of moving to a retirement home, and is filling in the form. And she goes out to the shop on the corner where the fella behind the counter secretly fancies her to buy a pen. And he asks her out for a cup of tea. These are the dramas. If you pitched that to anybody, they'd be like looking at you. Like, where's the high stakes interest? It's all underpinned by the narrative of the octopus who's watching various characters as they come into his aquarium. He's watching them through the smeary glass pane of his tank, which Tova, the cleaner, cleans just right. And she kind of communicates with him. She knows he's escaping every night, slithering about and eating sea cucumbers. And she indulges him and imagines that they're discussing things together. And when we get his point of view, we realise that he does understand. So there's a magical realist underpinning to this that enlivens the whole thing, or gives it a kind of hook to hang the whole thing on, which I really enjoy. I think his kind of implacable wisdom about everything is really interesting as these characters go kind of beetling about in their slightly deadbeat lives. Everybody's likeable, even when they're pillocks. I think that's a great feature of a certain kind of fiction, to make hapless people really likeable. I used to have an agent years ago whose name will go unsaid. He was quite young, and I was passed on to him by my previous agent. You know you're going downhill when you get passed on to a younger agent. Oh, he's a great fan of yours. It'll be marvellous. And he used to say you have to have aspirational characters in novels, characters that the reader wants to be like, or to emulate. And I think really he was talking about the kind of fiction that you get from people who write very popular bonk busters, the kind of Judith Krantz or Jilly Cooper type stories. Although when I've read those books, because of course I have read all of those books, they're terrible characters, they're reprehensible characters. They've just got lots of money and they behave like awful people. But he had this weirdly Tory-ish attitude about you had to aspire to be like this. And yet all the characters I love in real books, for example, the kind of Anne Tyler novels that I love, are usually slightly hapless. They're trying their best and swimming uphill. That is exactly what they're doing. They're swimming uphill, the characters I love. And those are the important characters, I think, in fiction, because we all are. We're all swimming uphill, really. So it didn't go well, this new agent that I got back then, telling me that my characters were too old and they weren't young and aspirational enough. They weren't people that young people would want to be. Yeah, that was galling. He didn't last that long, or I didn't last that long with him, perhaps. Anyway, all of that's interesting to me because I'm thinking a lot, I do all the time, about the kind of characters that we love in books and who works for us. It's very easy when you're listening to the advice of agents, editors, pundits, critics, the people who push books at you all the time, the people on YouTube who push books at you all the time, because you can lose sight of your own taste. And you see that in other YouTube videos where people are amassing these huge collections of books that they're buying, by the yard from these superstore bookshops or online. And they're just accumulating without discrimination, without actual taste. And you often hear people talking about books before they've read them, and you wonder, do they ever read them? I think I like to take things a bit slower and not just find books that are telling me who I should be. I like books that tell us where we all are kind of grubbling about in the world as it is and trying to make sense of it. Those are the novels I really do love. And that can be any genre, of course. Yeah, there's a kind of cross-genre platform, a cross-genre kind of novel that is about hapless, I was going to say losers. That's such a terrible thing to call them. Triers, perhaps. People who are trying to do their best. Those are the characters that leap out at me, and that's kind of what you've got here, I think. I hope anyway. I've still got the second half to go. I will let you know how the rest of it goes. And then I'm going to go on to, I think, the next from my book bag is The Visit from the Goon Squad, which I've meant to read for a long time and have held off till I've got this really nice copy with the floppy pages. I'm not sure about this now, this voodoo book, because I discovered it was book 2 in a series that might be hard to fall into. I might be best off, if I'm that keen, on buying book 1 first. I don't know. There are so many mass market genre paperbacks that I've got that I want to read right now. The idea of pitching up in book 2 of a series fairly randomly doesn't appeal so much. There's only about 12 or 13 days left in the month. It's getting closer to my kind of free choice time at the end of the month, which is kind of exciting. Anyway, goodbye. I hope everyone's well and you're enjoying the sun if you've got the sun with you, and you're enjoying some time to read if you've got the time to read. Thank you again for listening to all my rambling. I'm going to think more about this business of characters swimming uphill and how that for me exemplifies the kind of people I want to spend my reading time with. Maybe not the most successful, not the most triumphal, not the most show-off of characters, but the ones who are trying their best. Anyway, goodbye. I will see you all again quite soon.